This is great. I love these. I've seen like I've not seen this on Twitter yet, but this is all over Facebook, dude. Whenever I get on there to message somebody from my family or any of that stuff, I see tons of these photos, tons of this shit. It's ironic when white people complain about illegal immigrants as if their ancestors weren't illegals themselves. And it's like, bro, okay. They got a point. I'll give them that. But that point kind of dies when you don't have a legal system, when you don't have due process, or you don't have laws. So, definitionally, they weren't illegal because there were no laws preventing migration or immigration into the Americas. It's just because this is what I mean by taking away historical context, right? People always think about it. It really does feel that most people cannot actually think about a different time other than today, right? Because when they're, oh yeah, but the original white settlers were fucking illegal immigrants, and it's like, no, they weren't. They weren't. Because there was no legal system to prevent them as such. There was no border. There was no, even if you could say that each individual tribe was its own like state in and of itself, there were very few actual legitimate, like what we would consider powered governments in the Americas at the time. And they obviously weren't allied. And to be illegal, it requires you to have a system of laws set out. It requires you to have an enforcement mechanism to enforce those laws, so on and so forth. And so you could say that, oh, they did have tribal law, and they considered the land to be owned by nature or the spirits or whatever the fuck they believed, and stuff like that. So you could potentially make the argument. But you got to remember, it's still in its historical context. It's just definitionally not true. And I find this funny because there's so many of these, and it really fucking feels like every single one of them is a picture of someone like this with some shit like this on top of it, posted by somebody who looks like this. Oh my God, dude. And so, like, I swear to God, some of those accounts on Facebook, like, they have to be run by white people who are like flagellating themselves because of this. Because some of the stuff is like so tasteless. Like going to Mount Rushmore and flipping them off. It's like, okay, sure, that's great. And I mean, to be fair, they are actual frickin', American Indians doing the thing. So that's fair enough. If they want to be mad about it, that's fine. I'm not going to begrudge them for disliking the gigantic empire that fucking ethnically cleansed and destroyed their entire civilization. All of their civilization. So, sure. But I do find it funny that, like I said, the reason I find it funny, and I've said that like 10 times already, is because of the inability, it feels like, for modern people to be able to put themselves into the past and integrate their thought processes into that past, right? Not just, oh, I'm taking myself, who I was in the United States Navy, and then I take myself, to the past before America existed, and I'm like, well, I was in the United States Navy, so I think this. And it's like, no. If you went back in time and you are who you are now based on the similar experiences that you would have had then it's something like this. I wouldn't have been in the United States Navy. I would have been, if I'd been in any Navy, it probably would have been the British Empire's Navy. Or potentially as a privateer in another type of Navy, or just a normal merchant sailor of some type. It's entirely possible. Being born in the type of place that I was, if I were born in a similar place back then, I probably would have just been a fucking farmer. So, I mean, all of my fucking ancestors were goddamn sharecroppers, So, like, damn near all of them over the past, like, 3 or 4 generations were all, like, sharecroppers scattered throughout Tennessee and Kentucky. Yeah, so. And so when you put yourself back then, you have to use the rules that existed back then to shape how you might act in any given situation. This is why I say that during the American Revolution, I'm not sure I would have sided with the American Revolution because I am a patriot. And so if we had a revolution today, I'm probably going to, depending on how it goes down, I'm probably going to side with the United States of America. Just like I probably would have sided with Lincoln over the Union, maybe. I don't know. Being from Tennessee, it might be hard to say, but even back then, if I had been in the Navy, I wouldn't have been in a in a militia, right? I would have been in the Navy, or I would have been a sharecropper in Tennessee, and I probably wouldn't have liked slavery due to the fact that it's fucking competition. And yeah, fuck that, right? So it's competition with a bunch of fucking white people who own other people, right? So you can imagine how that might not sit well, which is one of the reasons why so many in Tennessee were split down the middle when it came to Union versus Confederacy. Because there is an argument to be made that if in the original Union that we had, that if the federal government is disrespecting and violating the rights of the states to enact laws within their own borders, then they have the right to redress those grievances. And if those grievances are not properly redressed, then they have the right to then they potentially have the right to seek sovereignty outside of the Union of the United States. Yeah. There's an argument to be made, and that argument was fought over, and it lost a lot. So, but when I take myself back to that time, I have to say, what would I have done then that would give me similar experiences to today, and how would that shape how I view the world? Because it could absolutely be that I would have become a rebel, right? I mean, I am very standoffish against authority. However, it's one of those things. It's like, I do respect authority to a point. And I'll respect it for the most part. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but I really don't like it. I really don't like it. And so it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know where I'd have gone. It feels like it would have been Union, but I wouldn't have liked what Lincoln was doing. So, and that's why I bring it up into this, is because it's an inability to put oneself in the past and integrate yourself into the past and then extrapolate what would happen next, right? So this automatically assumes that the Native Americans that they had a set of laws established like we did, that they had established borders and things like this, as if they didn't fight over borders all the time.